Good afternoon. Welcome back to Passion World Talk Radio Network, a wholly owned subsidiary of Global Media Network LLC. Educate, enlighten, entertain. And on this episode of Scam DamNation with your host, Lillian Cauldwell, we have a twist on Scam DamNation. It's an article that was written between the National Cyber Security Alliance and the AARP. And it's called Don't Blame the Victim, Fraud, Shame, and Cybersecurity. In our country today, not only is a person who's been scammed lose, but they're being punished at the same time. Why? Because they were scammed and somehow, like a victim of rape, they're responsible for it. Well, I want to let you know everyone and anyone can get scammed. Harvard or official, the gain is afoot, as Mr. Holmes would say. And the thing of the matter is, now with artificial intelligence, people who are already evil or people who want to make their money off of the backs of other people will do it. No matter how sophisticated, no matter how knowledgeable, how much of an expert you are, they stay one step ahead of you. And it doesn't matter, because if the large credit report companies, Experience, TransUnion, and Equifax are breached and you lose your information that way, you're still associated with fraud, shame. And even after you report it and do all the required moves that one is supposed to do after they've been scammed, you're still being punished. People look at you if you're some kind of creature feature in the new Shame of Hall Zoo. So a cybercrime, even though that is a real person, maybe from Nigeria or the Ivory Coast, it could be from France or England. Maybe somebody needs to pick up money. The world of scams have gotten more dangerous because people now are being held hostage and forced to work for the scammer and to bring in new victims. Fraud, shame, and victim blaming can divide family, friends, and workplaces. So what can it do? Well, let's kind of see. From people who are donate money to a supposedly dethroned prince of Nigeria to buying a shady cryptocurrency based on an internet meme, our society often pokes fun at victims of fraud. It's nothing funny about losing money that you spent a lifetime putting away. And there's so many different types of fraud. And we can go through that next week and start naming all the different ways. And every time you think you're current and up to date on scam, something new is thought up of. Or as Barnum used to say, there's a sucker born every minute. In our culture, we blame the fraud victims for their predicament, even in less obvious cyber crimes, like falling for an aggressive phone scam or clicking on a well-written vicious email. As a society, we have a strong tendency to focus on something the victim didn't know or didn't do, rather than focusing on the criminal and the crime. This victim blaming leads to what we call, quote, fraud shame, unquote, where people feel it is their fault for being the victim of a cyber crime, even though the fraud is the criminal perpetrating it. Fraud, shame, and victim blaming can divide families, friends, and workplaces. It causes victims of fraud, who are often older adults, to not report that they are the victim of a crime. On their 2023 Oh Behave survey, found that over 1 in 5 older adults born before 1964 reported losing money or data due to phishing, phishing, or other harmful online activity. Think about the intent of the victim, says Kathy Stokes, Director of Fraud Prevention Programs for the AARP. Quote, they didn't wake up one day and decide to send money to criminals. They were trying to help a beloved grandchild get out of trouble or trying to build generational wealth. Instead of looking at these people who lose money due to online fraud as gullible marks, first remember that they are victims. At the end of the day, the person at fault is the criminal. An AARP report on criminals and on victim shaming found that the vast majority of Americans, 85%, think that fraud can happen to anyone. Still, a majority, 53%, also believe that fraud victims are culpable and blameworthy. We need to work together to change this cultural contradiction. Let me tell you something. My beloved spouse, who has been dead now for 7 years, had a doctorate from Harvard and a master's and a bachelor's from the University of Chicago back in the 60s. And he was duped into paying a mythical company in India to keep his computer clean, CPU, after they deliberately hacked it. And he played right into them. And this is a guy with a doctorate from Harvard in all topics, organic chemistry. He was not a stupid man. Victims are all too often blamed for the crime they experience, the authors of the report claim, and this misdirection of blame has played a role in how financial crimes are prioritized or not in the U.S. This victim-blaming attitude is not only unjust, but also counterproductive in fostering a safer digital environment. Instead of supporting the victims, fraud shame adds insult to injury, leaving them feeling embarrassed, humiliated, and reluctant to report this crime. I didn't have any problem. That's the first thing I did. Making it easier for cyber criminals to continue their illicit activities undetected. It also makes the victim even more vulnerable, according to Lisa Plagamere, Executive Director of the National Cybersecurity Alliance. Quote, when an aging loved one of mine was defrauded, her adult children made her feel even worse about it than she already did. This caused her to pull away from them, increasing her sense of loneliness and isolation. Loneliness is one reason the aging population is vulnerable to scams, especially things like romance scams. Yeah, I had that happen to me too. It is essential to recognize that anyone can become a victim of cybercrime, regardless of their age, education, or technological proficiency. Cyber criminals are becoming increasingly sophisticated, employing social engineering tactics that can deceive even the most vigilant individuals. The focus should not be on blaming the victim, but on understanding the tactics employed by cyber criminals and empowering individuals with knowledge and skills to stay safe online. Now, an ideal world, an utopia, without fraud shame would be a more secure world. Victims will no longer hide and instead will report all cybercrime. Not everybody reports rape either for the same reason. Families and friends would stand united and support each other, even if someone is victimized. More law enforcement personnel would understand that cybercrime is a real crime, not just a civil matter. By changing our attitudes and behavior and be held accountable and responsible for our fellow man, we can make this a reality. So, what can you do? Like Uncle Sam wants you to fight fraud shame. If someone close to you tells you they are the victim of a fraud, don't blame them. Instead, help them reach out to the authorities. Teach them how to better identify phishing attempts and adopt other simple cybersecurity behaviors. If you are the victim of cybercrime, report it. It doesn't matter if you feel ashamed about it. You are a victim and you deserve help. Losing money and data is not the price of admission for the internet. 2, teach your community about cybersecurity. We have free toolkits, that's the National Security Alliance, available that you can use to give presentations to your family, school district, workplace, or other community hubs. You can give a talk for Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which takes place every October or at any time of the year. So I want to thank you for joining us this morning. This program was sponsored by 3 companies, one by Vicky Esther Chang in Singapore, who offers you the opportunity to get your memoirs in print so that your family, friends, peers, and the rest of the world knows what you've learned and what you have contributed. You don't have to be a king or an emperor or a nasty, evil dictator to have your story heard. Now is the time for you to get your story down when you can remember with the help of photographs or movies, if you had a movie camera then, of what you did. Interested? Text 484-364-1032. Name, email, good time to contact you. Or email us at pwtrnetworkllc@gmail.com. Also by PWTR Network. Have you ever wanted to become a podcaster? Are you at school and know that podcasting can be integrated into the subjects taught at school? Whether you're a middle school, high school, college, university, junior college, charter, private, military, doesn't matter. Podcasting is communication. The 21st century equals verbal and visual equals communication. That's your brave new world. Go to https://education.passionworldtalkradio.com/masterclass. Sign up. Bring a partner because you're going to learn how to do it. You need a partner to hear you. And then both of you can learn. 2 people for the price of 1. https://education.passionworldtalkradio.com/masterclass. 3rd company, MyFlex. It's a no-brainer. You don't have to think about it. It makes a world of difference. Heck, even a universe of difference. Go over to http://AI with Lillian, LILLIAN.com, and see what Mark Ruman is talking about. Sign up, different levels for different passions to help you get from point A to point Z. You can see this show episode all over again at https://passionworldtalk.com. Scroll down to the end of the page. You'll see current state of current affairs. Click on it. You'll see a Google link, or go to our blog /blog. And you'll see the Google link. Click on it, and it'll take you into the belly of the beast, our youtube.com/@passionate-world-radio. You can also go over to linkedin.com/Lillian Cauldwell. You can also go over to youtube.com/@passionate-world-radio. Plus 25 other social media networks, including tiktok.com/PWTR, Instagram.com/PWR, and refresh yourself. If you didn't have a chance to write down anything, now is the time for you to do it. Thank you all very much for listening. And next week, we'll explore some of the different types of scams that are affecting like a bad virus our society. Have a great week.